All right, I thought I'd just show you guys my project here at work since I got to post some content here. This truck failed safety because it had holes in the box on the outside. Of course, that is a legitimate safety failure. Stuff could be falling out, gravel could be falling out of there and hitting people behind on the road. So MVI safety, CVIP safety, whatever you want to call it, commercial vehicle safety. So I've got a few different things to fix. One is a crack up there. I don't know if you can see it right there. Crack in the tailgate. These are just some things that you want to keep an eye out for when you're doing, if you've got heavy trucks. But anyway, this side I should have taken some video before I cut this out. But you can see this jagged edge here, all rusted out. Gravel got in behind there, and then it started coming out this side of the box. I'm surprised with this box. It's only 1/8 material on the sides here. I'm peeling some back here, and look at the rust that's coming out of there. I mean, this stuff was thick. So I guess I'm just gonna have to, it's been patched together a lot. There's no point in spending too much money on a truck this vintage, and for the amount of hours it gets per year, there's no point in buying a new box for it or anything. It is what it is. And I'm gonna have to put some more down in here too. There's a little bit there, it just looks absolutely horrible. And I don't blame them for failing it. Problem is, nobody's had enough time to work on this truck because it's been busy with other projects. I don't know how many layers this thing had. I've replaced the corners on the outside years ago. They're still solid. This layer here goes to the outside. See, it's all part of this rib on the outside. And then it had a layer over top of that, this 1/8 stuff that goes down to the bottom here. So I'm gonna be putting 1/4 inch plate in. For 24 inches, it's gonna go all the way to the top of this. But problem is, I don't know if I should cut this top piece. I might have to just leave that, unfortunately. Or else I'm gonna have to cut it off, maybe along here, and weld it on from the outside possibly. I don't know, but this is no good. It had all these different layers, and then dirt, of course, started to get in there, and salt. This thing holds snow with salt and salted gravel. And it just was a matter of time after that happened, and the end result is what you're seeing now. So it looks like what I may have to do is leave this top piece. I was gonna try and replace the whole thing. I might have to just go over top of it, but boy, I don't know. I'll figure it out. Anyway, I'll show you guys what I end up doing here as I go along and take some video. So got it all cut there. I'm just using a plasma cutter and cutting along the bottom weld there. I think it's going right through to the other side. So what this box is, I just saw how it's constructed here. This piece is bent with the reveal there, that rib for the outside. Comes back down, and then it's welded down in here, and then there was another layer that came up, which was your inside wall. It only came up to here. So I might have to leave this top layer here, I'm thinking. As you can see, it's all pushed out from gravel and rust in there. So I'm gonna have to do something with that so I can get I'm gonna put 1/4 inch on the inside here. I can get that in there and it'll lay flat. Look at this mess. Turned out to be a bit of a can of worms, but won't they all? Gravel and thick layer of rust in there. Rusty old ship. Alright, almost got most of the rust cut out. I have to do a little more fancy work on the top there, clean it out. where I'm at with this project. Just the way the box was constructed to make this look decent in the end, I ended up having to cut out quite a bit of material here. The reason why I cut this out, noise is me stepping on pieces, is because this was rusted out, full of rust holes. So if I was to weld a piece in behind that, the rusty dented up part that looks just like the existing there with holes in it would continue to just erode and look horrible, and then there would be a piece of 1/4 inch that was solid behind that would also probably start to rust. And anyway, you get my point, it would just look like a really bad patch job. Up here, I want my 1/4 inch to fit against this 4-inch square tube that's at the top of the box. So I ended up having to cut this piece, and you saw how it was rust jacked and dirt got in there and stuff, so I couldn't, there's no way I'd be able to get my new material on the inside of the box to sit flat and have a good surface to weld to. So what I'm going to try to do with this, it's all warped quite badly from just a number of reasons, wear and tear, plus cutting, the heat of cutting it and other things, grinding it. So I'm going to try to pull this out and weld it on flush underneath this piece of 4-inch here. I know this is a lot of work, but I don't want to fix this thing in a way that it's going to look just as bad or worse than when I started and just not have holes in it. It's got to go for a safety, and the people down there wouldn't think too much of my repair if I did that. So in here, I've got it all ground. Most of the loose scale rust is ground. I'm going to put some snake oil on it. And by that, I mean this rust proofing stuff. And I don't know if it's going to work, but I think it's worth a try because we might get a couple more years out of this. A little bit of welding to do up here. Again, that 1/8 inside piece is going to be, I'm going to pound that flush and weld it on so that my new piece of steel, my 1/4 inch, is going to go flush. It's going to be a bit of a headache because I do have to try to get that top seam there all pounded back or bent back in underneath the 4-inch so I can weld it from the outside or inside, whatever works. And then this, it's quite, you can see how it's not really straight. So I'm going to put my 1/4 inch, my new 1/4 inch panel down right into this crack here, weld it all the way down solid. It's going to take a long time to do this repair, but it'll probably be good for the rest of the life of the truck once I'm done. I doubt we'll have to do this again. So I'm going to be putting some paint on the inside where that rib is going to be. Anything that overlaps, I'm going to be putting rust treatment on this side, and I'll be putting some paint on the new piece of steel. I'll probably do that. I don't think I'm going to get the new box wall in here tonight, as I had to do a couple other repairs today. I haven't been working on this for the full day. In any case, I'm going to be getting everything sealed up so that it doesn't look like this in another couple of years. So anyway, thought I'd show you guys where I'm at, and I'm going to continue now. I'm going to be using, this is the stuff I'm referring to as snake oil rust converter. So as you can see, it's gonna look a lot better. I think the outside of the box here, I'm going to try to convince them to let me do a little bit of work with a DA, get most of that off, that rust off. And then I'll probably put some converter on that, and then I've got some epoxy primer. Hopefully paint this one side of the box, or at least get enough paint on it that it looks more presentable. All right, better get. Well, here's where I'm at on the inside. Kind of got some stitch welding happening on this panel here. It's all pushed back so I can get my piece of 1/4 inch up in there flush, covered in that anti-rust stuff. Don't know if it works or not, but it's worth a try. And then I just painted this with some kind of trim clad type paint that I had left over. Just a sheet of half a sheet of 1/4 inch. And that's going to be welded in there. So now I've got to fit it, start stitching that. Got the back piece in, that section done. Now I'm working on this front section. So you can see where I've got the new 1/4 inch steel in here. Of course, it's not lined up yet. And I've cut this existing 1/8 inch so that can be pushed back, welded flush here so that the 1/4 inch can be tight on the top and nothing's going to get in behind that and this top square tube. So it's going to take some finessing, I guess you could say. Get this in here. You can see the gaps there. Now, some of that is going to go away when I get this 1/4 inch welded up and fitted, but you can see the gaps here. So I'm gonna have to find a way to push that all back in. I'll weld it from the outside. That's what I did on this side here. It's not the prettiest thing, but this box is beat up, and this is just what I had to do to make it work. And you can see here, I just welded that middle rib on. I welded it down here. I had to grind the welds a bit because spot welding it in sections like that, the weld wasn't uniform. It didn't look that great. And also because of the metal, the existing rusty metal, and then the new stuff, it was hard to get a good consistent bead without getting porosity and stuff. Plus there's paint and who knows what else stuck to this thing. Anyway, that's where I'm at with that. I'll just take you inside and show you the inside. So here's the piece that I just put in yesterday. And then you can see that a lot of this is sort of deformed. I've got crazy big gaps there, so I'm gonna have to get that pushed back in and fit that up right. But you can see that it's nice and flush along here, and I'll weld this in solid so dirt and salt and stuff like that can't get in right there. This is all treated and painted inside, as is this one. You can see it's got some like a single stage direct to metal Valspar paint on there, so hopefully that'll make it last a little longer. And I just used the snake oil rust treatment on converter or whatever that stuff is on here. We'll see how that lasts. But you can see now that existing 1/8 inch, as soon as I cut it, it popped right back because it's been beat up so bad over the years. So this is where I'm going with it. Had to notch it a little bit up here. And then I just cut that bottom angle iron so I could slide it in behind. And I'm pretty much, I think I've got her now fit close enough that I can start tacking the back here. Get a couple tacks on there. I should be able to manipulate this in with the hook here. I can't get the top tight, so I've just got to put a tack on there. And then up here where that seam in the bottom of the box down there is, it actually goes solid at the end, so I had to cut this 1/4 inch piece that I'm putting in. So it'll sit on top of that because I can't actually slide it down inside like I have here, the way it should be. Anyway, it'll make it work. And that's probably the most time consuming, ignorant part of this job is what I'm doing right now. Once that's fit, I think I'm there now. Once I get that so it'll slide in there, then it's just a matter of a little bit more cleaning here and there, and then welding. I'm gonna do the inside of the box last because the outside of the box is, again, not a real pleasant job to look after. I'd rather get that done and out of the way. Tell you what, this has been a lot of grinding and beating, and I'm glad I got tomorrow off. Anyhow, back remember what these things are called. So pipe fitters use them to manipulate the pipe when they're fitting it up. I just built my own, just a 1/2 inch bolt, a little shaped piece of scrap metal there. So I can actually turn this by hand and notice it pushing in there. Now it's kind of hot, I gotta be careful. It's got to the point where I have to use a wrench. So just use it as like a jack screw, a pusher bolt. Oh, okay, I guess I got to get a better weld on there. Anyway, you guys get my point. I'll have to beef that up a bit, try here again. And I'll just close that up snug. I don't want to go too far because it's just going to start bending. This is not built as good as the purpose-built ones, anyway, the homemade jobs, but I'll just keep moving that along. You can see I've got a little bit more of a gap here. I'll just move that over into the middle here and just start tacking that up as I go. And of course back along here. And what's holding it is that outside layer. The part that I cut when it's stressors sprung in on me. But it's coming along quite nicely so far. The bottom's going to be a challenge, there's no doubt about that, but first is the top here, get that secured in, and then carry on from there. The original push screw here was just a little too weak, so you can see that it's just like a piece of 1/8 inch, and it was just bending. So I built a heavier model. Here it is. And that was enough that got a little bit of a gap there. But it's not too bad. I think I can go a little bit more. Be careful, it's still pretty hot. If I can get that tight, should be able to tack it there. I just want to get this. I don't mind a little bit of a gap, and then I can just, my weld can fill what's there, and I can get some pretty good penetration and heat build up there, because this is thicker stuff. I'm welding 1/4 inch to, well, that's a little thicker than 1/8. That might be, I think this is 1/4 inch, this corner piece. But anyways, you can see that I'm getting the gap filled. I'm gonna have to cut this tack out. I just got it a little bit closer, tacked it in there, because this was out a good 1/2 inch, like you can see, like back there. I'm gonna have to try and screw that back together, somehow push that back in. But right now I just want to get a couple tacks on here and get this kind of lined up a little bit. And I'm going to go to the outside and work on that for the rest of the day here. So get a couple of these. I might even go back to here and just try and get this a little closer, so that, just so it's a little less work when I come back in here, and so that the other side, if it starts to move, like it's anchored on this side, so it won't warp. I don't think you're gonna get too much movement out of 1/4 inch, but you never know. See where that tightened it right up. And I kind of want to get this area where the junction is. I want to get that kind of tightened up a little bit and just anchored so that nothing's going to move on me. Move to the outside of the truck now. The tough part here is going to be to try to get this top joint welded in properly. This was stitch welded to begin with the 1/8 material, and then over the years some people had put some seam sealer in between the stitch welds. Rust got in there, rust jacked it. It's not very nice looking. I think that what I'm going to do is just weld that solid. As you can see, I've got to weave some of that together. Some of it, these bigger gaps, I probably won't be able to completely fill. I'm just going to do what I can to try and seal that up, because I don't want material getting in between the 2 layers of metal again. So that's going to be the toughest part to do. I'm going to start with that. Down here I've got everywhere where the gaps were really tight. That's how I started out, is you want to just get those sealed up or welded together. Just did some stitch welding there, and I tried to straighten this bottom line out a little bit. It's a bit wavy, but I mean, this truck isn't going to be a showstopper. And I'm just using the push screws again, just to tighten this top one up. This box, of course, is had a lot of stuff dumped in it over the years. Nothing's really straight on it. So I'm gonna have to keep moving that along. A couple things I mentioned with the push screws, or I neglected to mention, pardon me, is you wanna loosen them off before you start cutting this off, because it's a lot easier to loosen it off now than it is to cut it off and then have to back that screw out of there. Usually it gets some spatter on it, stuff doesn't want to move. And then just make sure you weld it on the right side. See, I'm welding it down there so I can get my zip cut in. Cut that off, and I've just got a tack on the top to hold it. And I'll just break that tack off because I won't be able to get my zip cut in there at that angle to cut it out. So anyways, this is starting to come along fairly good. I'm not gonna have it completely done today. I want to park it outside for the weekend. Too bad that the weather is like that, but I guess it is what it is. I hope it doesn't get too wet on the inside of the box. Probably try to get a little bit of primer or something just on a spray bomb and cover some of this bare metal so it doesn't start to flash rust on me right away. Last thing I want to do is more grinding. So I'm just trying to cut this. I kind of tried to make a little bit of a dish there, if you will, or a reveal. I cut this on an angle going down, and the reason why is I want my weld to just sit right inside there, because I don't want to have to grind all these welds. I'm hoping for less porosity. The front of the box had less rust in it than the rear, so if this was a little bit more solid material, it's a little bit better to weld. I'm not burning through all over the place. Up there, of course, that top 4-inch square tube there's not much left of it. There's a lot of thin spots, so I got to be really careful, and it's not going to look the best, the weld. I'll probably have to grind it a little bit, but it is what it is. I'm going to do my best to get this thing back together and sealed up. So it's out in service now, the truck. It's parked outside. I just ended up putting some primer on the side of it. I just thought I'd show you guys where I ended up and what it looks like now. As you can see, so just some etch primer, ground some rust off. It's just a light coat of paint right now so that I can sandblast it all off eventually and do it properly. Anyway, so gate's a little bit dirty right now, but you can see that it needs some more work. But cracks that have failed it on the safety have been repaired, and of course you can see they've been using it, but that's what the repair ended up looking like. So it's solid. This side needs to be done eventually too. As you can see, it's starting to get pretty bad too, so I'll be doing that next. But anyways, that's where I'm going to leave this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the work on this old truck. There's going to be another one coming up. I'm going to be doing some engine work on it, so you might want to tune in for that if you're interested. It's Caterpillar 3126. Thanks everybody for your views, watching, and like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.